Daily Stripe, February 1st, 2023. We are in February. Very exciting time.
New month.
New month. Who doesn't love a new month?
I don't know.
You know who does? You know who loves a new month?
Who?
Guest in the Daily Stripe, host of Bleav in Bulls with Nick Schultz, C.J. Watson. C.J., how are you today, man?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
We are doing swell. We want to get right into the thick of things. We saw you talking about the Lakers the other day. Obviously, they have been, always will be one of the hottest teams talked about, not only in basketball, but in sports. But I want to start with your Bulls, man.
Yeah.
You're the GM, throw your G. We got to start. We have to start there because that, quite frankly, that could be the ultimate domino. If that falls, there could be huge wavelengths felt throughout the NBA.
Yeah, every day it's a different team that's going to go after Lavine. It's, or it's the Bulls want to keep him, right? And what would you do? Are you of the mindset that you blow it up, you move him, you try and move Vooch, you try and move anyone and everyone to get as many young assets, and maybe you hold on to a piece like Patrick Williams, who's now having the best season of his career thus far, shooting quite well. What would you do if you were the Bulls GM?
I would definitely trade one of the big three, either Vooch, DeMar, or Zach Lavine. I think you at least keep two of them and try to get you some assets back, get you some draft picks, some more young talent to help develop. And I think they got some young talent already in Io, Patrick Williams, like you said. They got guys who still need to play more, still need to get more experience, but I think can develop into a good, capable NBA player throughout the rest of their career.
And what do you think about Coach Donovan's remarks the other day about Lonzo? Obviously, I think this team would look completely different if he was healthy right now, but Donovan comes out and says he's not even close to being ready to play. What do you think about that? And what are the Bulls missing by not having Lonzo on the court with them?
Lonzo does so much for this team. He's a pure point guard. He doesn't really look to shoot. He definitely looks to pass first, but plays defense, plays both sides of the ball, and really can just settle your team down, get your team into good shots. So guys like Zach and DeMar need someone just to settle them down and get them easy buckets, and that's what Lonzo does. So I always thought throughout the beginning of the year that he wasn't going to be back. So I thought, it's not news to me, but it's news for everyone else. I feel like. But I just, like I said, that knee issue is just some tough to deal with and lingering. It never looks good.
Should we expect to see Lonzo play at the level that he was playing prior to the injury? I mean, this is a guy that's dealt with injury his entire career.
Yeah.
But as a guy who played multiple years in the league, like, what's it like coming back from an injury and hearing some of those expectations, especially a guy like Lonzo, who's a top 5 pick coming out of college, like
second pick.
People are talking about, like his legs aren't even strong enough to get him up and down the court, which obviously, like, they have no idea. They're just saying that. That's NBA Twitter. They take everything and run with it. But when should we expect him to be back, and at what level will he be back when he finally does return?
I think next season, I think he'll be back to his form. I think it takes a while. Like, there's a lot of basketball that he probably played, from high school to AAU to college, and now playing in the NBA. Just, it's a lot of wear and tear on your body. So I think he just needed the rest, he needed the time, and that's what he got for this whole season. And at least he should have had the plenty of time to do that, to get back healthy and get back right. And I think, like I said, training camp next year, preseason, you'll start to see the old Lonzo Ball.
Can the Bulls wait then? Like, realistically, can they just hang tight and sit packed and, like, what value are you going to get for Vooch? At this point, DeRozan's at the end of his peak. He's still a top player, but it's at the end of his peak. Lavine, quite frankly, I think he needs Lonzo as that running mate in the backcourt. He's being asked to do a lot. Pat Will, we still have some faith in. He's a guy that had missed time, but he needs to get, acclimated and really get his NBA sea legs under him. And I'm looking at the rest of the East, like, right now they're the 10th in the play-in team. Okay, can they catch the Wizards, who kind of stink and are kind of mediocre? I mean, realistically, probably. The Pacers are the team I would look to, like, follow them. Okay, the Magic are probably a year away, but that you have to keep an eye on the rearview mirror. And the Raptors, do you think the Raptors will blow it up?
I think they do something. Like I said, if they trade a couple of their pieces, they're going to have to, rebuild or retool, as Nick Schultz would say. But I think the Bulls definitely can spare the tide until they get Lonzo back, or just the end of the season. I feel like they're right in all the games. They just don't have the wherewithal and the structure to just close games out.
Structure. I think that's, like, you're more of a point guard than I am, Toss, and obviously CJ's more of a point guard than both of us combined. But I think really the structure that Lonzo brings to the team.
Yeah.
Right. A guy that could run the point. I think I heard a clip recently. maybe it was just something that I think it was what Phil Handy had said when he was in with the Late Show about how important a guy like Rondo was to the team.
Yeah.
And how important a guy to just really set the offense. I'm a Celtics guy, and I was like the one guy I really wanted this season was Malcolm Brogdon, a guy that even off the bench could come in and set the offense and kind of alleviate some of the pressure for Tatum and Brown.
Potentially a 6 Man of the Year winner.
Oh my God,
yeah.
absolutely. I mean, from a structure standpoint, you hit it right on the head, CJ. I mean, Lonzo is so vital to really making this team have some form and have some structure and an alignment.
Yeah, we were talking about Lavine, and I mentioned that every single day it's a different team, right? This team's interested in him. Here's what the package would look like. Today I've been seeing I follow the Mavericks very closely. A lot of where's Dorian Finney-Smith potentially going to get shipped off to, right? Tim Hardaway, all of those guys. And I have a question for you because I think I looked up an article and I found it was like Bleacher Report 2012, and it was a trade rumor that you were going to get moved from Chicago.
Yeah.
How much do players pay attention to that? I think for you, it was after the season had ended. So obviously like the circumstances are slightly different. Yeah. But what's that like when you're like in the middle of a season? And I know you shared the locker room with guys that were probably listening to some of that stuff too and having to deal with that. Like, how do you handle that? How do you manage that?
I mean, it's hard, because back then I think social media just started, so guys were still like on Twitter and Facebook, so it wasn't as popular as it is now. But you still hear those rumors, you still hear trade rumors, but it's hard because especially if you have a family or whatever, you don't want to leave your family or have your family move with you in the middle of the season. So, like I said, you just try to play the best basketball you can and focus on the court, and that's really at the end of the day all you can worry about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was really cool. I saw the Pacers like restructured Miles Turner his deal, and the GM, I think it was the GM or the owner that came out and was like, sitting with him in a press conference to discuss the restructuring of his contract, and was like, look, we sign players to have them on our team, not to repurpose their contracts into packages that we can then trade off to reassemble or retool, like you're talking about. Nikki Schultz loves to say. But I really respected that, he stepped up and he protected his player, and Miles was ready to answer. And we've been fortunate enough, we're talking about before we hopped on the show. He's a Longhorn. We got to talk to Miles. He's an awesome guy, having a fantastic year, but he was ready to answer that question. And that's something that like NBA players in today's NBA have to be ready to answer. And a lot of times it's not necessarily like fair playing field, right? Like the media is just ready to just fire every single question and like try and catch them. But I respected that the owner, GM, whoever it was, I should know that, but kind of hopped in and was like, no, he's our guy. And we signed him because we want him here. He's a piece. And he's a part of our future.
And a lot of guys got to understand is, it's a business. And I'm sure all NBA guys who come to the NBA know it's a business first. And things happen and you're going to end up get traded maybe once or twice in your career. It just happens, especially if you're not like a franchise player or whatever.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, and you played for the Pacers too. So maybe I would love to hear your thoughts on Halliburton. Because again, like we're Texas guys. I remember when the Knicks, and no shake against Obi Toppin, who's a fun player, an exciting player. But I remember when the Knicks passed on Halliburton for Obi Toppin, and I was like, they will rue the day that they made that decision. Because to me, Halliburton is not only was he in my top? I know you had a top 10 shooter list, CJ. We also put one together with one of your former teammates leading the way, Mr. Steph Curry. But Halliburton was in mine, and quite frankly, I think he has a chance to be a top 5 point guard in this league.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't know if he's one in my top 10 shooters list, but he's definitely he can knock it down. To me, I compare him to like a modern day J Kidd, because J Kidd couldn't really shoot that much, but he at the end of his career he kind of shot it better, and Halliburton is actually doing it better than he did early on. So I think like he's ahead of the curve going as far as like you kind of compare their careers or whatever.
I think if the beginning of the process for him from a shooting standpoint looked a little bit better, then we would maybe consider him to be one of the best shooters in the NBA. It's an odd shot, but I think so many guys that are finding success this year, young guys like Tyrese Maxey, like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is certainly, he has taken his game to another level. Guys like Tyrese Halliburton, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but don't you think like the pace has changed a little bit in how guards attack the rim and play with the step back? It's just like a lot of it seems almost like herky jerky and like they're not in control of their body, but in fact they actually have this elite athleticism that allows them to kind of like baffle our eyes when we're watching it. I'm like, oh, that looked so awkward from Shea.
Kind of saw it last night in a college game.
But he just ended up with a floater in the lane or an and one, at the cup, or a weird step back three that I thought he was off balance, but it goes in, and he actually was like, it seems like a shot he could take every night, every day, every play.
Yeah, I think today's athlete for sure is definitely more unorthodox, and they look stronger than the average former NBA players. And I think the game has changed so much. The game is faster. It's a faster pace. They're doing all kind of dribble moves, and step backs and side steps that we never thought could ever be done. And the game has changed. And it's definitely fun to watch, and it's great to see for the evolution of the game.
Mm-hmm. I just have a couple of questions about some other former teammates of yours.
Yeah,
we got you here. We brought up Steph. Where does he rank for you all time?
In my all time greatest players ever.
Yes, sir.
He's up there, like top 10. He'll probably be like top 5 when he's done playing.
Cool. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
And Paul George. I mean, he's another guy. He was my 11 in my top 10 shooter list, and he's another guy. I mean, you got to go and one, bro. I have to. I love PG. I love PG on the Pacers. And again, I talk about coming back from injury, a guy who's come back from a huge spotlight injury and really didn't miss a beat.
Yeah.
And I Bleav you were in Indiana when he had come back, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, I was here. I was actually, when he got injured, I went to see him in the hospital in Vegas. That's when he got hurt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And can you maybe speak to him possibly being underrated? Because I want to throw him in that realm.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think he's definitely, I don't know about underrated. I think more so with the players, who the top players in the league are and who the hardest guys to guard. And he's definitely one of those guys because he plays both ways and he can shoot and he scores at all 3 levels, 3-point line, mid range, and at the rim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think maybe as a player, he's not underrated, but as a playmaker, as a creator for others, I mean, his handle at his size is so impressive. Ball on it's a yo-yo. Like it's really, really, it's crazy what he can do. So we were talking when we were making our shooters list, and I mentioned, because Kyrie was on my top 10 shooters list, but I also said, to clarify, Kyrie is also on my starting 5 current NBA players of just the best aesthetic game. Just guys that I love watching, that it looks like poetry in motion.
Ooh, for sure, yeah.
Who's super silky. So I want to throw that one at you. I would also have PG in my starting 5. Positions don't matter in this one because it's too difficult. But who would you have in your top 5?
Yeah, I like PG. I like Steph, Kyrie. KD plays flawlessly to me. Just the way his size, what he does, he'll catch the ball at the 3-point line, might even dribble and just still get to one dribble and score. And his game is just so efficient to me. That's why I love it so much.
Yeah, I mean, can I throw Jokic in there?
Yeah,
the fluidity of his game. It's it's just so methodical and thought out and so calculated.
I mean, I'm like I mentioned before, I'm a Mavs guy, so the way that Luka plays, with the pace and the slow fast and the slow, more often than not, but it always works. He's just always in control, and I think that that's something that, in comparison to, and it's again no knock to guys like Shea and Halliburton, there's just something different about aesthetically watching, the older players play and the younger players. And I know Luka's he's 23, so he's a young guy, but I figure he modeled his game a little bit more off LeBron than, the guys that were his peers, at least in how he talks about the game.
For sure, yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. I think he's been playing for so long, overseas they can start playing professionally at a younger age. So I think that's helped a lot too.
Yeah. What was that like for you playing overseas? You played in Turkey, right?
Yeah, Turkey and Italy and Greece my first year out of college. It was different, but like I said, I never liked it. I had a different coach every month my first year, so I was definitely I don't want to do this anymore.
Tough.
I was about ready to quit.
Did you have a favorite spot
Italy's nice
of all those countries? Because they're beautiful countries.
Yeah, beautiful countries. I wish I would have traveled more and sightsee more. I didn't really do that my first year. When I went to Turkey, I did more, but my first year, I wish I would have traveled more and sightsee different places.
It's crazy to think the vets do it on the back end of their careers. Like Dwight Howard, goes and does it on the back end and is having the time of his life. Right. You probably had went on the front end of your career, and your whole goal is to get to the NBA.
Right. Yeah. It's different when you're trying to get to that, NBA level, and when you already made it and just kind of comfortable in yourself and, just have a peace about yourself. I feel like I think that's what it's all about, just being free and be able to do what you want.
We're talking about guys that started abroad and then worked their way to the NBA. Pat Bev, obviously, he's well known for doing that.
Yeah.
And finally getting to the NBA and being a really impactful player, first on the defensive side of the ball, but he's become a good spot shooter as well. What did you think about the camera moment in that Lakers game where he got the tee at the very end?
It was classic.
Was it the best on camera or on court moment you've seen in a long time?
It's the best ever, and I still don't understand why he got a tech for it.
Oh, that was all time.
I don't get it.
I think
really?
Like the
you
tech.
You don't know why he got a tech. Come on, that was tech.
No.
Yeah, but the tech should get remanded when you're right.
How do you get a tech? Because number one, the game's not even in session, and you're just showing a play that he missed. It wasn't like I'm cussing at him. I didn't see any cuss words. I'm not showing up the ref. I'm just showing you a play that you missed.
I thought it's like a techable play in the sense that like it's very blunt and in your face.
Well,
it's kind of like,
if Pat Bev
douchey,
if Pat Bev reacts in any way, shape, or form,
he's getting a tech.
They're ready to go. Their hands are like this.
They're ready,
righty, lefty. They're ready to rock on.
I can't remember what game it was, but obviously like playback, and a lot of the assistant coaches, there's one coach on every NBA team who literally just watches the play, on their playback screen, on their iPad in their hand, to see if they should review it. And I can't remember who it was playing, but there was something that should have been challenged. And that assistant coach, whoever it was, I can't remember the team, was like, told the head coach, yes, challenge it. So the head coach challenges it, unsuccessful challenge. They went to commercial break. They come back from commercial break and they're showing this assistant coach. I don't know why they framed up on him, but he just like looked at the iPad. The other team had the ball and he was just like, fuck.
I made a mistake.
And that was it. And then they went back to the play and I was like, oh my God, they totally put that guy on blast. They did not need to.
Ruined his job, ruined his day. It's hilarious.
But the replay it's really turned the game into something. But I don't know, man. It's just, it's fun. It's where the game is now. It's where sports are now.
Yeah.
CJ, before we let you go, way too early finals pick. Who you got from the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference?
And your MVP pick, because we've been debating, please.
That's tough. My MVP pick, I would go to Joel Embiid this year.
Okay.
Then out of the East, I would say Milwaukee. In the West, I would say the Warriors still.
Okay.
Until they get knocked off, it's hard not to pick.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard.
I mean, they're a sleeping giant right now. And actually, I just want to say last question, because I really wanted to ask you this, and I just remembered based off the MVP end of the season thing. There's so much talent in the NBA. Do y'all think, and this could go to everybody, do y'all think they should split up an MVP, one in the West, one in the East?
No.
Okay. All right, well, I will go find the nearest toilet and put just on that note.
Just because CJ was so confident on that one, I got to agree with you.
My teacher said there's no such thing as stupid questions, but that might be one.
Okay, all right, okay. On that note.
What about the Jokic three-peat though?
No, I think it's very possible, especially if they get first in the West. I think he's going to repeat again.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard not to give it to him when he's playing so well.
I know, right? And they're the best team, right? Yeah. It's really, really tough. Do you think? Call me crazy if I am.
He's already called me stupid, so there's no hold.
Call him stupid. Call me crazy. that it's possible that when all said and done, Nikola Jokic, LeBron, obviously, Giannis, Steph, and Luka Doncic could end up like historical top
5,
top 15 players of all time.
Kevin Durant.
That we're watching 6 players that are in the top 15 of all time now.
I think so, but I mean, in another 20 or 30 years, it's probably going to change again. It's just over time. Like Larry Bird is going to get fizzled out at some point. When guys like KD or Giannis are coming around, like your top 5 is going to change every 50 years. I feel like we might not be here to see it, but it's going to change over time. It's not going to be the same. LeBron obviously is going to be one of the greatest because maybe someone down the line comes and breaks his record. Who knows? We never thought anyone would break Wilt's record, and now we're about to see history.
And how people can get healthy so much quicker and bounce back from injuries and optimizing their athleticism.
Right.
I mean, Patrick Mahomes apparently had a high ankle sprain, and the guy played 5 days later. I don't understand it. I had a low-grade ankle sprain, and I was out for 6 months. So,
plantar fasciitis, and
plantar fasciitis, no joke.
Yeah, it is no joke, honestly. I mean, that is. I really want to just give. I just want to give kudos to the point you just made because it's so true. When we were all younger, right?
Yeah.
Like the top 5 is like the top 15. People were like, okay, am I watching David Robinson, Hakeem Olajuwon? Like, where does Patrick Ewing, even Karl Malone, where do these guys fit into the top 15?
Yeah.
And now, like, we're like, okay, like they're behind D Wade, behind Dirk, behind KG, and like like it's always cycling. You have your mainstays, your legends, guys who like impact the game. You just can't deny, and it's almost disrespectful not to include them. But these 6 that you just mentioned, like if Jokic three-peats, like where are we at with that?
Exactly. Yeah, he has to be better than Barkley, Ewing, and all those guys. Olajuwon, and the crazy thing is they never can play against each other, so we can never really see who would have been better than the other. So just just got to appreciate the greatness. And for me, I think there's more than one GOAT. There's not just one GOAT. There's so many great players and people that touch the game of basketball and help change it.
Yeah, every good farm is multiple goats.
Yeah,
as they
true.
say.
True.
They say
Turn that into a T-shirt.
Yeah, I will. You know what? I'm glad I tracked the stupid card. C.J. Watson, Bleav in Bulls. You're the man. Could talk hoops with you all day. We'll have you back soon, brother. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it. Thank you.